Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Well, it's not really as always, because look,
No.
I can do that now.
Please don't.
I should. It's not great social distancing, but also look, hey, there's a stadium there. Today was surprise, exciting football Saturday.
You know, we had the Zoom call with Ryan Day yesterday, which we will talk about. But then after the Zoom call, we were told that we are going to get to come to Ohio Stadium this morning and watch a little bit of practice. I was kind of, it was good to be able to come here, but I was also planning on just, relaxing on Saturday morning. And of course, we did not get to do that. But I'm not going to complain. If that sounds like a complaint, Tom, it is not a complaint. It's just telling you what our morning was like. So we did get to come in here this morning. Saturday's a scrimmage day, so they're in there scrimmaging right now. And if we just shut up, then the podcast could be a scrimmage. We have to get closer to the stadium. They did boot us. So yeah, we got to watch some stretching, some special teams, some here individual drills here and there, about 30 minutes. Got to watch some throwing, some catching, and we'll have some video and some photos up later at BuckeyeScoop.com of what we got to see. It wasn't much, Tom, but give us your biggest takeaway.
Watching the wide receivers. Once again, one of the true freshman wide receivers just sort of caught everything that was thrown to him. And we got to watch, 5-10 minutes of tackling drill at the very end. And didn't get tackled during the tackling drill. And that was Jackson Smith-Njigba. And, if you were to continue to throw fuel into the irresponsible hype train for 2020, I think he is the guy who I would be fueling.
He just looks like he belongs, like he's been here for a long time, and he continues to live up to all of the expectations we've placed on him, which is good for us mainly. Also good for him. Makes us look good, makes him look good. We all win, and that's good to see. One of the interesting things we were talking about while we were walking to set up here is the quarterback who is repping fourth right now, which is Gunnar Hoke, while Jack Miller and CJ Stroud kind of flip back and forth between 2 and 3. And that was done by design, as Ryan Day has tried to give those two freshmen as many reps as they can handle, because Gunnar Hoke doesn't need them as much. Once it gets closer, as camp moves on, they'll start to give Gunnar Hoke more reps, Tom. And the way I equated it is like, if this is a race between the freshman and CJ Hoke is faster than they are.
Gunnar Hoke.
What did I say, CJ Hoke?
You did twice.
CJ Stroud and Gunnar Hoke and Jack Miller. But Gunnar Hoke is the faster of the three, so they're going to give the freshman a little head start, and then as camp goes on, they'll see if he can catch up. They probably expect him to. But if he doesn't, and one of the freshmen stays ahead of him, now you've got a new backup quarterback.
Yeah, and with as weird as this year has been, quarterback is probably a spot where you're less hurt than in a few others in terms of maybe being able to get on the field early, just because they've been able to have all of these conversations with the coaches, and Corey Dennis has been working, I think it sounds like, pretty intensely with the two freshmen to get them up to speed. They've also been able to do a lot more 7-on-7 stuff. That's stuff you can do when, even without the pads, they've been able to do that for the last few weeks. So those guys have gotten more practice-ish reps than, the linebackers have gotten in terms of being able to work on tackling. And, it's not perfect. You don't have a pass rusher looking at. It's 7-on-7, so you're throwing, and, there's probably, you're working on some coverage stuff. You're working on, recognizing coverages. You're working on, actually sort of building rapport with those receivers and throwing a good catchable ball and all that kind of stuff. But, it's not 100%, but it's better than nothing. And that's probably a win at this point, and they were both in the spring, so they've probably spent a lot of time in that meeting room and over Zoom and all of that, kind of getting up to speed on the playbook. So they're probably not in as bad a situation as some other guys might be in terms of being ready-ish to go this year with the prep that they've had.
And we know Ryan Day has talked about, and Kevin Wilson as well, how all of these freshmen, everybody's had more reps than they've ever had before, because there's just been so much more time to just do throw and catch and 7-on-7s. So they've gotten that sort of experience. We also talked to Justin Fields yesterday, and Ryan Day. Justin Fields, I thought he looked pretty good today.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he's not doing much, so I guess you would only notice if he looked bad. We saw the deepest throw we saw today was probably about 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some comeback routes and some outs, and
he has the arm to make that 15-yard throw, which is good. I mean,
yes,
it beats the alternative.
It does, and so really, there's not a lot to take away. You try to piece together depth charts by who's repping when, who's jogging when, and it's sort of accurate at times. Trey Sermon and Master Teague, I saw at one point Master Teague was like the third or fourth running back, and we know that's not the case.
Right.
So there's nothing really you make of that. Trey Sermon was running with the ones, and so you still, there's no reason not to think it's Teague and Sermon as we've expected. Receivers seem to be as expected as well, running in the orders that we expected with Chris Olave and Julian Fleming behind him, and then Jameson Williams and G. Scott, and then was Garrett Wilson in the slot with Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then there was somebody else before Mookie Cooper as well. So there's quite a few guys in there. I think they're going to be okay passing the ball, just based on what we saw today, Tom. And now they were not going against the defense. So keep that in mind as you're trying to project how this offense is going to go.
If they face Oklahoma in the playoff,
true,
they should be in pretty good shape, it seems like. Yeah, I mean, this is one of these things. The first practice of the spring, the first practice of the fall, if you go back and listen to our first practice of the spring episode, you will hear us at the end speaking optimistically about how the next time we get to watch them, we'll know so much more. And, I mean, since today was the next time we got to watch them, I mean, yes, true, we do know more than we did then, so that's good.
Do we?
I mean,
yeah,
probably.
Yeah.
I think we've learned a lot about life and togetherness and society over the last 6 months. So yeah,
appreciate new things.
Yeah, exactly.
Little things.
Yeah, I'm always real hesitant to draw any real hard and fast conclusions from that first time we get to watch them in the spring or in the fall, because, like you said, we're trying to sort of piece together information based on what we're seeing, and it's like, okay, I think that when they're running in this order, it means now. I think that when they're running in the order of the quarterbacks, they are like, oh man, Gunnar Hook's the fourth team quarterback. Except yesterday, Ryan Day specifically told us why they were doing that. So it doesn't actually mean what you would normally think it means. So you come away from this first practice and everyone wants to know, well, how does this guy look? What is this guy? Who's first team? And it's like, well, I can tell you all of the stretching was extremely good today. The punting looked okay, not fantastic. Some of the pooch punting was not fantastic today. And I can tell you Jackson Smith and Jigba was very impressive. And we can give you answers on some of the stuff. I can tell you that Nick Petit-Frere was repping with the first team at right tackle. That was sort of one of the lingering questions. He was the favorite. He was there with the first team when we got to watch practice. Practice is still going on. They're doing much more football-y things now than they were when we were in there. So is he still with the ones? Maybe.
The fun part about trying to piece together a depth chart or a pecking order, when Ryan Day said yesterday specifically, there is no depth chart right now because there are so many unknowns. And so, hey, I'm surprised they're even, don't even put names on the back of the jerseys, because who are any of these people? You try to, because during their warm-ups, they're all lined up in the end zone and they do some jogging, and they jog in the order, essentially in the order of like the first team jogs, like the first line, and you've got like Pete Werner and Tuff Borland, and then I'm like, well, who's going to be that third starting linebacker jogging in that front line? And of course it was both Baron Browning and Justin Hilliard, and then the backups were behind them.
So they're switching to a 3-4. Is that what I'm hearing?
So just things like that where you just try to figure out, okay, what exactly is the order, even though it's not 100%, it just gives you something to go on. And all we have to go on is the little they give us to go on. As when the third period ended and we needed to leave, the man on the microphone, Quinn Temple, is telling Jerry Emig, the SID, basically, hey, get the media out of there. They've been here long enough. Now we want to actually do football. And so that's what's going on behind us. And, I thought maybe we would get to see some football because, I'm stupid.
Well, we got to watch a tackling drill. That was more than I was expecting. Yeah, I posted something on the board yesterday that was kind of like, let us know what you want for today. And people were like, hey, can you get us some all 22? And I was like, well, I mean, we're going to be real low. That we were down in double A deck. There's a fire truck going by. If that's loud, I apologize.
Old school, baby.
Yeah, staying true to our roots. We were down in double A deck and A deck on the west side of the stadium. Oh, it's not getting quieter. They were on. We were in double A deck and the bottom part of A deck on the west side of the stadium. So, we did not have a real good all 22 angle. We did not have any plays to really be showing you all 22 of anyway. These windows are super, super useful in terms of being able to look at who's out there, who's not out there. Some usefulness in terms of determining who's in what running order. Minimal usefulness where we probably overinterpret things a little too much in terms of who's really good this year. And, no usefulness at all really in terms of what kind of scheme are they going to run.
Yeah, it's slightly more useful than Facebook when it comes to information.
In terms of it's more useful than trying to parse out individual still shots of the highlight videos that they edit out, that they send out on Twitter or whatever.
Like frame by frame on the videos. Who is that right guard there?
Look, one of the freshman offensive linemen is getting driven back into the backfield.
What does it mean?
What does it mean exactly?
He's a bust. That's what it means.
Well, I remember Nick Petit-Frer's freshman year. There was a video of Alex Williams absolutely driving him back into the quarterback, and it was like, oh man, what does this mean? And Alex Williams is now at Vanderbilt, and Nick Petit-Frer is now potentially the starting right tackle on a national championship contender. So the answer turned out to be not that much.
One of the interesting things from yesterday, Tom, I asked Ryan Day, hey man, what's up with the scholarship limits coming up next year? And he's like, well, the NCAA told us yesterday or the day before, and he's had some talks with Mark Pantoni, and all they can really tell us is, what he would tell us is just like, it's really complicated. So people are assigned a +1. He didn't even really get into it because in the end he said, we'll be at 85 next year. So based on everybody who's going to leave and not come back, which kind of surprises me that they would be able to get at 85. So I was thinking I'll have to go through that roster and see who isn't going to be here, and just my assumption of what it would be like. Do I come up with 93 players, and now it's like, who are the 8 that aren't going to be here? It'll be an interesting exercise. I was kind of surprised about that. I was also surprised that the NCAA has already gotten back to him.
Yeah, well, and I was not surprised that the NCAA's rules on this are incredibly pedantic and bureaucratic and a huge pain in the butt. And yeah, I mean, they almost have to get this back to them now, because in terms of roster planning, if whatever the number is, you have to be able to plan for that in terms of bringing the new freshmen on who are going to be signing in 2.5 months. You got to know before those guys sign on, because otherwise you can get yourself into a problem where you have to boot someone, or you're over the number or whatever if the number is less than what you thought it was going to be. So yeah, I mean, this feels early, but it's this really isn't that early, because they have to know it. You can't just find out next July. You have to know now in order to plan for your recruiting class. But yeah, that was surprising to me, because that you think about the number of guys who are coming back, who are potentially seniors this year, who could have another year. It's boy, there's a lot of people who are probably not necessarily high NFL draft picks, but it may be a little bit like Caleb Lesson last year, where it was another year for Caleb Lesson on the basketball team was not going to put him in as a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. They kind of are what they are at this point. So this is their platform year to go, get into the NFL draft. So some of those seniors, I don't know if you're going to see a 4-time captain next year or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a trade-off where it's we don't really need you, but we'll let you go to grad school for a year.
Yeah.
So just maybe go on your merry way. Although, again, I'd have to look at the roster to see even who those guys would be, and I'm interested to do that later on. Not today. We're trying to watch football today.
We have other stuff. Yeah, and we have other stuff to do today.
To talk
about today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just looking through the notes here from yesterday, they are, I guess we should talk about why they are practicing in the shoe. I don't know if we've done that yet.
Yeah.
They are going to be playing in the shoe with nobody in it, basically. So they thought Ryan Day is like, you know what? Let's go ahead and practice in the shoe, because it was what the Bill Belichick interview,
Yep.
where somebody asked Bill, "Hey, what's it like playing with nobody in the stands?" And he's like, "It's like practice." And so Ryan Day's like, "Hey, I should do that and go practice in the shoe." Now, they normally practice with music, and if you listen in the background, there is no music going on. So they are just trying to keep it as real as possible, because I've read somewhere, or somebody told me, like, even they're still trying to figure out what music they can do and what noise they can put in the shoe during games, as we are still waiting to find out how many people can be in a press box, who can be on a sideline. This whole thing is just a crazy day-by-day venture, and I was talking to somebody, it's like you're just laying the road that you're going to be traveling tomorrow today, and then you put the next block. It's the train tracks as you're going. So it's interesting, and that's why they're in there today, Tom. I think it's a pretty good idea, actually.
Yeah, no, this is a, you practice the way you play kind of thing. Well, this is exactly how they're going to play. I mean, there are probably 200 fewer parents in there today than there would be during a normal game, but other than that, like, this is about what it's going to be like. And we got a little sense they were playing music during some of the stretching, like, because it's a normal practice, because they're going to be playing music before the games. I mean, that hour before the game, they play a lot of music before that band comes on the field. So that's very much. I think the Giovanni count today was 2, if I remember correctly. We did get a sense for what the crowd noise might sound like in the stadium, because when Ryan Day gathered the team up to around him before practice, they did it on the other side of the field from us, but still, he's being a little loud. He's being pretty energetic, so I'm sure we could have understood him and heard him, except they played the piped-in crowd noise that you've heard if you've watched baseball games or hockey games. So yeah, they cranked that up a little bit. I shot a video of that. I'll have to post that on Twitter. You have the sort of loud recorded crowd noise as Ryan Day is talking, and he's gesturing and he's waving, and it's like, man, I bet this is a heck of a speech. And we couldn't hear it at all. I'm sure that was a coincidence. I'm sure that wasn't.
Yeah, that was likely just a mix-up.
So silly mistake. I mean, thinking about why Ryan Day might be a little bit forceful and a little bit energetic this year, one of the things that he talked about yesterday that was very interesting was there are coaches on this coaching staff who are not living with their families right now, and the coaches who have little kids who are going to elementary school, some of them are not living at home right now. That is, I mean, this is one of these things that the sacrifices that people are making this year in order to have this football season happen. That's one of them. I mean, you think about, I have to wear a mask to go to a game. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to, I can only get, only 15,000 fans to go into the SEC, and we don't know what the crowd situation might be like in the Big Ten later this year. All these terrible sacrifices that people are making. There are Ohio State coaches not living with their families, not seeing, when they see their kids, it's like they're seeing their kids socially distanced outside, like not going in their, I think Ryan Day said wearing a mask, going inside their house. I mean, like that's a sacrifice. This is one of these things that when you see the national people talking about, the Ohio State only wants to play because they think they can win a national championship. It's the only reason the Big Ten's going to play. I mean, look at the things that they are doing. Look at what they're willing to do. I mean, this is a season that really means something to an awful lot of people on this team, and I think that's something to be respected. I don't think college football coaches see their families a ton during the season normally, but during a typical year, last year, Ryan Day would be leaving the facility at a time when we were still at the facility after practices sometimes. So you would see him walking out at 7:30, 8:30, whatever time it was. You're still going home and getting home and tucking your kids into bed and all that kind of stuff. Not to see your kids for, an extended period of time, that's a real sacrifice. And that, not that there was much question how much motivation there was within this football program to play a season all the way through and have an outstanding season, but that's a pretty good barometer for you.
Yeah, and if you're going to ask the players to make sacrifices, and instead of going out Friday nights or Saturday nights after games or Tuesday nights or Wednesday nights, like when I was in college, or Monday nights or Friday, or whatever nights. They're asking players, settle down, and if you're going to ask players to make sacrifices, coaches, willing. And Ryan Day didn't mandate that the coaches did this. It's just some of the coaches felt like they would do this. They could make this sacrifice. And Ryan Day said he wears his mask inside when he goes home. And this is a guy who last year would say like he likes the noon games because then he can go home, sit in the chair with the family, sit on the couch with the family, and watch football Saturday night. It's like one of his favorite things to do. And now he's just like us. He's making sacrifices just like us. Because I don't know that it would be fair for you ask players to do all of this and then you just go back to normalcy, at 7:30 at night. And that's clearly not the case. I don't know that normalcy exists really for anybody right now. And even Kerry Combs, who just had another grandchild during this and not getting to see them, or only being able to see them through a window, and it's a brand new time for everybody. And you don't even think about this stuff. Like, I'm typing away, writing up the everything that's going on the Zoom call, and I hear that and it doesn't even register because
well, of course you're doing that. Like, that's what everyone's doing.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. And I think there is something to that shared sacrifice, because there's a story I remember, and this is 20 years ago now, about a team that was playing a bowl game, and this isn't the BCS championship or anything like that. This is just it's a bowl game. It's a New Year's Day bowl game, and because it's a New Year's Day bowl game, they fly down before Christmas. The team is all there before Christmas, and the coach is saying, we're all in this together, and we're it's too bad to not be able to spend Christmas with your family, but we're all in this together. And then the players see the coaches' wives walking through the lobbies with like bags full of presents and all that stuff. It's like, well, are we really all this in this together? And unsurprisingly, that team did not perform all that well in that bowl game. So, yeah, that's when we hit stop. I'll tell you which team that was.
Were they playing South Carolina?
Maybe. They may have. Yes. Yeah.
But that's something that Urban kind of fixed with the help of like Annie Apple and other Ohio State parents, in getting the families to be able to travel to these bowl games, because it's the coach's family travels on the team plane. Everybody, how many do you need? Who all do you need on this plane? We'll get them on there. And rightly, some parents were kind of a little perturbed by that because they might get 2 tickets, but they have to get their own way there, and it's it's not like everybody lives in Arizona or Pasadena or Florida or Detroit, where wherever the bowl game might be. And so that was just another thing that eventually gets fixed, and we've got a lot of problems this year to fix, Tom.
And I mean, they are very clearly working on fixing all of them. I mean, this is a year with some unfixable problems, but as many as can be fixed, they are working real hard to fix them. Let's run through what it took for us to go into the stadium today. We came in, and they had us outside the gates. They had us. Jerry Emick, the SID, was checking our temperatures with one of those little laser gun temperature sensor things.
Tom, should I ask what your temperature was today?
My temperature was 97.3, I believe.
I came in at a crisp 97.9.
Gerd in the morning zoo. All right. Yeah, it was. But then you had to like certify on the app that you had none of these symptoms, and you had not had any, you had not been in contact with anyone who had been tested positive or suspected of being positive of COVID. And then you had to show that, you had to fill this whole thing out, and then you had to show it to Mike Bastard and the other SIDs as you were walking in that, yes, in fact, I am certified to be in this building. And it's not like we're up there right next to the players, high-fiving the players. We're up in the stands, and
masks on.
Everyone has masks on. We're up in the stands. There was not a player who was closer than 15 yards from me at any point today. But it is everyone who is what they call tier 1, which is the people who are the closest to the players, the people who have like daily contact with the players. So that was, I think I said 120 players and 50 staff, something like that. All of them get those daily tests. They get the daily 15-minute like rapid response tests. If someone tests positive on that, then they do the PCR test, which is it takes a little, it takes a day or two to get the results back. but it's the more accurate. And I think they said that they have had some false positives with that rapid test. So they have to get, they're going through all this stuff, and even with that, they're still not letting them go into the cafeteria area of the building right now, or some of the treatment areas of the building right now, because they want to give it a week with these rapid tests just to make sure that the rapid tests are really working the way they're supposed to. And like, they are being so cautious with everything right now. And I think everyone within the program is just kind of bought in, like, this is what we have to do to have a season, so this is what we're going to have to do to have a season. And I still do wonder. I have no concerns that Ohio State is going to have players who are willing to not go out to bars and not do anything stupid and not go hang out with friends and all that kind of stuff. But I do wonder about some of the Rutgers in Maryland and Illinois, and like, if you're 0-4, like, do you really care if you go to? I mean, like, I do wonder about that. This program, I just, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, I don't see an issue this year for them internally.
Yeah, it's the schools that will need to go blow off some steam that kind of concern you. I just wonder when all of this, when it gets back to normal eventually, in terms of football operations, how much easier coaches will consider their job, like, or because it's so different and difficult, and I don't know, menial is the right word, or just the level to everything that they have to do. And then once they no longer have to do that, and they can just, the family can come into the building and see them. And because remember, this is what Family Fridays, Best Fridays in football, Urban Meyer started, where families would be out here. I believe it is on Friday on the walkthroughs, or maybe it's Thursdays. But you've got kids out there, and you've got wives, girlfriends, and just everybody hanging out, and there's none of that. And they said that yesterday. Wives can't come into the building, so kids can't come into the building. And I just wonder, like, will they consider, like, once this is all done, it's like, well, this is a really easy job. There's no stress. I'm just happy to be doing it. I could do this forever. And then, 6 months later, they all have gray hair.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, then they have to go back on the road to recruiting. Yes, so yeah, I think it's all a little bit of a balancing act. But yeah, no, this is definitely. I mean, we'll get to 2021 when we get to 2021, but it will be interesting to see how much of this year ends up sticking around in terms of the long-term operation of these programs, because there's a lot that's changed this year with not being able to have recruiting visits, not being able to go on the road to see recruits in person. They've had to adapt a lot of that stuff, and that's now. I think you're seeing programs come up with sort of new ways to do stuff. And I mean, it's like your kid's school. Like, your kid's school probably had to go online for at least a few months this spring. Well, now all of them have sort of figured out a plan for online school. So are people going to continue just going to school online in the future? I don't know, maybe. But that's now something that may be an option moving forward. You're going to see a lot of that stuff in football too.
Yeah, one of with everybody just being at home and having time between seasons was the overthinking things. And be it coaches, Chris Holtman talked about it as well on Friday when we also talked with him. But that was something that Justin Fields talked with Day about, and I just went and sat in his office and talked about just not overthinking things and just letting. It's so cliche, but I guess that's why. It's like, let things come to you. You don't worry about every little aspect. But this is also a guy in Justin Fields who wants to know more and is now asking, why are we doing this on offense, so that he can have an understanding of the purpose and what are you trying to accomplish on this play, so that he then understands what you're trying to accomplish on the next play. So when you've just got this idle mind and there's not enough actual football going on, and it can be a blessing because you increase your knowledge base, but then if you just get lost in that and you like the well, or you just get sucked down into that. But it's a balance, and he was talking to Ryan Day about that. Just do what you do, keep doing what you're doing. We'll get you right, and don't get just stuck in your own mind.
Well, and how many times have we heard them talk about not overthinking and being able to play fast because you're not overthinking, and it's just, you recognize, you go, and you're not. I mean, this was the 2018 defense problem where there was too much going on, and they had too much going on in their heads, and they couldn't play fast because they had too trying to process. The same is true in his quarterback. You have to be smart. You have to be a student of the game, but you want to have that where all that film study just makes it okay. You recognize, you go, not you're thinking through. You don't want to have you want to be smart, but you don't want to be too cerebral. Mm-hmm. Maybe is a good way to put it. That you want to think. You don't want to overthink. And that's something that I think they have to be careful with. And Day obviously is aware of that, and talked about the fact that you don't want to spend too much time thinking about it. I think that was part of the defense conversation that we had with him yesterday too. They've had a lot of time. The defensive coaches have had a lot of time to think things through and figure out how they want to do things, operationally and in terms of schematically, in terms of personnel, all that kind of stuff. And you get the sense that they have had a lot of time to think about that stuff, but that was like March to about June maybe, and now it's okay, now we've done our brainstorming. Now it's time to start putting together an action plan, and it doesn't seem like there's they want to have options, and all the jobs are open. You can see me doing the finger quotes if you're watching on YouTube. All the jobs are open. Who's to say? But you get the sense that I feel like I could probably write down who I think is going to be starting that first game against Nebraska and hit at worst 21 out of 22 starters, and with that too deep 40 out of the 44, 42 out of the 44, it seems like that you probably have a decent sense, and they I'm sure have an even better sense for where things are. And this is just based on us, the little bit we got to see today, and just talking to the coaches, and you hear them talking about certain guys more than other guys. It's okay, well, that probably means something, they'll get asked a question about, hey, tell me about Julian Fleming, and then they'll talk to you about Julian Fleming. Right. What tells you something is when you say, tell me about the young wide receivers, and then who's the first person they talk about, and how long do they talk about it, and how do they talk about them. That's instructive to us as well. And between all that stuff, it's I feel like they probably have a pretty good sense who's slotting in where at this point. And we're still 3 weeks from kickoff. It's almost 3 weeks, probably almost to the minute at this point to kick off.
Pretty good. You're talking about this talent, and that was one of the things that Ryan Day told Justin Fields. Basically, you've got talent around you. You don't have to do everything. Just get the ball, be the distributor. And yes, you are much more than that, but you can have a pretty good career around here just giving the ball away. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of guys to do that with. Tom, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think that was kind of the big takeaways from today, and the big takeaways from yesterday, other than Justin Fields is a cute little dog. Speaking of sacrifices that people are making, Justin Fields talked about the fact that he's basically just going to the facility and then hanging out in his apartment and not going out and not enjoying some of the what are probably the traditional perks of being the starting quarterback at Ohio State, and hanging out with his little French bulldog Uno. So
dog dad.
Yep. Yeah, he Uno Fields, as Mike Bassford pointed out to me today, Uno Fields on Instagram. So you can search Uno Fields on Instagram and follow Justin Fields' dog. So I
do feel bad for let's just, before we go, get into this vegan thing, which I have no problem with. My wife is a vegan, so I'm pretty well versed in it. I just feel bad for a dog that doesn't get meat scraps, and not that you're supposed to feed dogs people food, but come on. And so poor little Uno, because he's had a taste of the good life.
Yeah.
And now he's like, plant-based sour cream. Oh no, I think I'm good. I think I'm good there, Dad.
Well, one of the things Justin was asked on Friday was, so when you smell steak cooking, you just use your mouth start watering. You said he's kind of past that now. He doesn't really, smell chicken cooking, smell steak cooking. Doesn't really, get him, just make him starving all of a sudden. I mean, we didn't get to talk to Uno, but I would guess if you asked Uno when you smell steak cooking, Uno probably still would like some of that steak.
That would have been the better follow-up. I did. Tom, you can appreciate why I can appreciate what Justin Fields misses most. And he said mac and cheese and chicken fingers. He's basically a kid's meal guy. He's got very basic tastes. There's nothing wrong with that, Tom.
There's nothing wrong with that as long as you don't call the chicken fingers wings of some kind. You're fine. Yeah, no, I was like, oh, Justin Fields used to eat exactly like my 7-year-old. Cool, good. Well, all right,
cheaper.
Don't need to save for college anymore. He's training like a college athlete. All right, good. So we'll just bank on that scholarship right now.
I will also say, if you're going to be a vegan, do it while the school is paying for all of your food, because it is not cheap.
Yeah, he said he eats a avocado toast or a bagel with vegan cream cheese in the morning, and then gets a plant-based smoothie. The follow-up question was, so like broccoli and kale? He's like, oh no. It's like plant-based protein but chocolate flavored. So I was like, okay, that's okay. That sounds all right. And then a vegan lunch, practice, and then takes home a vegan dinner. And he basically said, like, this would be very hard to do if he didn't have Ohio State doing it for him, because I'm sure both the financial and the preparation time involved in all of that, like, that takes some commitment. But that's again, just like the coaches not living at home, just like the parents going, flying to Chicago, and every indication we have is that Ohio State is interested in playing a football season this fall. So and perhaps doing pretty well during that season.
Well, and that's why I asked Justin, like, how did Mick take it? How did Coach Mickey Marotti take it? He's like, well, he was skeptical at first, because I don't know if you want your quarterback going vegan and becoming some sort of little hippie. But of course, that is not what is happening. He's leaned up and is now faster. So I'm going to guess that's a good thing.
And his no contact jersey was still black today. It was not like tie dyed or anything like that. So yeah, I think he still looks the part. So I think he'll be okay.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up so we can get home. Not that we don't mind being here. This was nice today. This
was an absolute delight. It was to get in the car this morning, and it's 40-something degrees, and it's cloudy and gray, and I'm driving to Columbus on a Saturday morning, and it was like, all right, this feels like football season.
And now it's like 60-something. It's just nice.
Yeah, typically we would just stay in the stadium a little longer on a typical game day, but that's all right. We'll when we heard, it was like, what a delightful surprise. I was genuinely happy and excited to be coming here today, and so hopefully we'll get to do it again.
Hopefully, we'll see. So that'll do it. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to continue to check out BuckeyeScoop.com. There will be, like I said, video and photos from today, and all kinds of content from the weekend of high school football as well. And there is a possible commitment coming tonight, Saturday, 7 p.m. So be on the lookout for that as well. And we will catch you all later.